want you to practice this hip tilt drill because it's helping people really transform the way they strike it. And it's really helping people hit straighter drives as well. People seem to understand the idea of turning hips, but they don't understand the idea of tilting them that well. And I want to show you how it relates to your takeaway and ideas of early extension. Not that early extension is a fault on its own, but it can cause some issues for some golfers. That's a different video. Let's show you how a simple drill is making golfers think so differently about their swing. And they're just coming back to me going, I am striking it so much better. Why didn't someone tell me this earlier? Well, let's tell you it now. So in my golf swing, there's turns, so rotations, but there's tilts as well, and they have to work together. And my hips, if I go top of my backswing and stop, my hips haven't just simply turned, they have tilted as well. Because if they were to just simply turn, what we tend to find is if the lead hip goes forward, trail hip comes back, is it makes you stand up. So you start leaning over. As that happens, golfers tend to stand up. Now, I want you to think of yourself or your mates. Does this backswing look familiar? So hands pushing out, clubs coming back, takeaways get disjointed. Or these kind of positions. I know this is extreme, but the top of the backswing, where we got the club kind of shooting off over here, hands maybe out too far in front of you. Again, if I just simply get my hips rotating on a level, it causes lots of problems in the shape of the backswing. And then in turn, on the downswing, if I just rotate my hips, so move this hip way forward as they stay level, what about this action on the way down? Do we see this? Does that ring bells with people? And turning around this back hip as you rotate. Where what we're seeing from good players is they put rotations in, but there's tilt, and loads more than amateurs. And even on the way down, there's tilts. And these tilts encourage better shoulder actions, which I'll talk to you a bit more at the end of the video, which then encourage better club paths, which then encourage better shots with driver or iron, and certainly better strikes. So the best way to get people to feel this is actually to feel when they're turning, and then when they're tilting, and then when they're doing a mixture of both. So just put the club across your waist and turn it. Try and keep it level with the ground and turn it. Feel that movement. See, what does that feel like? From upright, that makes a lot of sense, but we're not. We're tilted forward. We've got forward bend in our pelvis and our upper body. If we just turn these on the level now, well, this gets us into some pretty funky positions. And you can also do it on the way down. Just turn it on the level. Feel like the club just wants to move out. Yeah, move out, hit down and across. Now what I want you to do is try not to put any turn in and put loads of tilt in. This also isn't quite right, because now what happens to put tilt in, it's hard not just to put big sways in. So we need that mixture of both. I want rotations to happen, but simultaneously as rotations are happening, we want tilts happening. So we want the hips going this way. These tilts are going to encourage way better positions and ideas of setting backswings, which then encourage much better themes of downswings, which again is going to take those slices away. It's going to take the horrible orientations of the face needing to be in there away from these kind of very disjointed positions from these level hip turns. So get the ball out in front of you, set yourself up. I've got an 8-iron here. Place the club out in front of you or behind you here. So the majority of it is out behind you, across your hips. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn and tilt. So try and get the head of the club going up and back. So not just back, it's going to go up and back. And then downswing, I'm going to try and get the grip coming up and the head going down as I rotate and tilt. And I'm going to try and get the club to line up with the ball. It won't quite get there. You'd have to be so open. So from there, I'm just going to let the club come off my hips to release it, to let it go. This is great feelings for how your hips could work with a release. I can see this club is lining up with the ball and going basically over the ball as it comes through. And then I'm going to work that idea into my shots. By putting these tilts in, it's going to encourage way better club paths without you having to think of the club path. By putting these tilts in with your rotations, it's going to start getting you more connected on the way back rather than these kind of shove out recovery backs and then God knows where people go from there, because they go anywhere, which way from there. Of course, at home in front of a mirror, I can see myself in the reflection here. Think what turn feels like. Feel what tilts, what do they feel like? And then mix the both together. Try and get turns and tilts in there with that little bit of release. Doing those feelings off course will allow you to get to the range start feeling if you're putting those tilts in. Your ball then ground, ball then turf strikes will just honestly transform rather than these horrible level hip duffy kind of crashes down at the bottom. Also what will happen is your distance will improve because your strike will improve. The other thing that happens if you start putting better tilts in is you can get more speed because you're actually starting to load and unload into the ground better. So you start pushing off the thing we're connected to, the earth. Then what this does is it starts getting your shoulders to work on a much better angle that allow you to connect the shoulder turn to the club path. So you don't even have to think of club path. This video here has more information on that with driver and iron, and it's really making people think differently about how they are not controlling the club path where they could with some simple tilted shoulder ideas.